Hello and welcome to my Married to Autism video channel thingy. I know what I'm trying to say. Welcome, my name's Jody and I'm married to a man who is on the spectrum. One of the things that comes up for us in our relationship is depression. I was diagnosed with bipolar in my early 20s. I remember as a teenager and early 20s having these really sort of high moments where I was really jovial and loving life and nothing could get me down, and then just randomly have these sinking, plummeting, sad moments. And one of my boyfriends, my first boyfriend in fact, said to me something about, I think you have something called manic depression, and I remember thinking, what the hell's that? And I had to go and look it up. And of course back then we didn't have the internet. It was like an encyclopedia or a library, I don't remember. And I found out what it was and thought, it does kind of sound like me, Didn't really think much of it. Then mid to late 20s actually, when I moved in with my husband. Oh, he was my boyfriend obviously at the time. I got diagnosed then by, not psychologist, psychiatrist. And they had said that I had bipolar. And I remember thinking, maybe it's just that I've moved in with this man who, isn't interacting with me. Like maybe that's what's making me so down. But I don't even know if like that type of conversation came up. It wasn't part of the questions. It was like on a daily basis from a scale of 1 to 10, that kind of thing. And nothing about your situation sort of came into play. It was all like, on average, how do you feel about blah, 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 and yada, yada, and life. And none of it was, are you currently living in a situation that is causing you great distress? So I wasn't sure at the time. I thought, I don't know if this is accurate. I feel like, it's just my situation. It's situational depression. And it's so rare for me now to have any kind of high. I think the last high I had was pre-COVID, when somebody complimented me on my dancing skills. And I was, so wrapped with the compliment that, I felt really wonderful for a few hours. So how that has played out in our relationship. The very first time hubby even noticed that something was wrong was one time after I'd moved in with him. So we've known each other for at least 2 years by this stage. And obviously in our courting and our conversations, phone calls, letters, I don't know if I mentioned it, I probably didn't. And then I move in with him and I'm there for, I don't know how long I'd been there for. 8 months, a year, I really don't remember. And I was already starting to feel really lonely and empty because he went to work, he came home, he watched TV, he went to bed, repeat. And I was like, where's the me time and our time and snuggles and flirting and compliments and affection and like none of that. And there was just one morning, a Saturday morning, and I just did not want to get out of bed. All I could sort of think about was, why bother? Why bother getting out of bed? There is nothing in this day for me that is going to appeal to me in any way, shape or form. We're not going to be doing anything exciting or anything. So I didn't bother getting out of bed. At 11 a.m. he comes in and he says, are you going to get up anytime soon? He goes to whip the blankets off me. And I pull the blankets back onto myself and go, no, I'm not getting up. And he was like, what the hell? What is this? You can't just lie around in bed all day. And I was like, I can. Watch me. But I know that threw him for a loop. I don't think he'd ever experienced or knew of anyone with any kind of sadness. And then I came along. And I would say that's probably been the hardest thing for him to deal with. So if, we're flipping the coin today, it's usually I'm talking about all the things I have to deal with and, the complications of my relationship. But today I'm talking about the thing that he's had to deal with the most. The thing that's probably affected him the most, and also something he just really doesn't understand or know how to deal with. And so from there it was sort of like I would have moments of, just feeling down, not getting out of bed, not smiling, not feeling happy, not feeling joy. And for me, it's not perpetual. I will have months where I'm fine, and then I might have a couple of days where I'm not, a couple of weeks where I'm not, and in worst case scenarios, a couple of months where I'm not. And I would say at the moment, I'm in the couple of months where I'm not phase of my life, of that depression cycle. I've been feeling a bit average for months. And I always struggle to get out of it, but I try to do as much as I can because I know the drill. I know how it goes. It's not anything somebody else can fix or cure or whatever. And you're probably thinking medication, because most people I speak to who find out that I have depression, one of the first things they say to me is, have you thought of being medicated? And yes, I have been medicated before. When I was diagnosed by the psychiatrist, psych, I'll just call them psych, short for both, right? They recommended that I be medicated for 3 years. And I was not medicated for 3 years because I hated it. So the first thing I noticed was I became really numb to the point where life was still sucky. I was just not able to respond. It wasn't even that I didn't care. Like I was sitting there like a zombie, zoned out of my face, off my face, whatever. And things are happening around me, or in my case, lack of things are happening around me. The lack of talking, the lack of affection, the lack of compliments, it's all still happening. And I'm just sitting there like, and I could tell in the back of my mind, it was kind of a strange feeling that I hate this life, and now I'm medicated, and that's even worse, and now I'm just a zombie and my life sucks still, and my desire to do anything about it was zero because I was also really tired all the time. So I'd go to work, come home and then be in bed asleep by 8:30, which totally not me. I'm a night owl normally. And all of a sudden I'm like going to bed at 8:30 and I'm like, this is awful. Like, how 3 years of this? No chance. And on top of that, TMI, forewarning, I couldn't climax no matter what I did and how long I did it for. I couldn't climax. And I just thought to myself, sex is like the only free joy I have in my life at the moment. And even then, it's debatable if you've watched my videos, but still, bear with me. And I can't even climax. Like, what is the point of living? And so here I am, like, everything just took a turn for the worse. So I'm like, I can't do this. This is not my future. So that's the answer to medication for anybody who's asked and anybody who will ask. No, not for me. And people also say, it's the doses and the type and the this and the that, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a guinea pig. I have no desire to try that one for a few months and then that one for a few months and maybe that one will work and maybe blah, 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 blah. Not to mention the side effects of weight gain. I mean, kill me now. Just damn. So yeah, look, I hated being medicated. So I didn't do it for very long, probably like a year or so. And, it's a year or so that has shown me that I don't want to go back there again. So I just plod along. I've obviously tried other things like having alcohol here and there and getting a little bit tipsy and merry, but that doesn't work anymore. Now when I drink, I get ridiculously sad. So yeah, no, we don't go near the alcohol so much anymore. And so now, obviously, I'm in the throes of it, and my husband is trying to deal with it and watching me just kind of sit there and sink and having no idea what to do about it, how to remedy it. And he'll say things, God bless him, like, you should get a real job as opposed to working from home. Go and work for somebody else as though that will be the answer to all of my issues. And he doesn't actually remember or think about, before working from home, I worked for others for a good 10 years while he and I were together. And I wasn't happier working for others. It didn't cure what ails me. It didn't make my life happier or my depression go away or anything like that. If anything, it was problematic because I'd be at work trying to fake it and pretend to be happy and feel really like, ugh. And also, if people asked me how I was doing, it was so hard to pretend to be doing well. I'd rather just stay home and hide and not ever have to tell anybody that I'm not doing well. Because again, people didn't understand it. It was no explaining to these people that my partner is really not present and I'm dying on the inside because, I don't know what's going on. And so I'd have to go to work and try to pretend to be normal and like everybody else. And then just return home to the same, sad sack situation and not feel any better. So the idea of my husband saying, you need to get out, if that worked, everybody who has depression would be working. So yeah, he tries to, help as much as he can, but I don't think he fully understands it. But where I'm really sort of bummed out is our two youngest children. One is on the spectrum and one has my depression. And I'm just like, damn. Like, I didn't know that he was on the spectrum to even think about the genetic side of things. So I don't know. If I'd met somebody on the spectrum and knew what was involved, would I have had children with them? I don't know. It's not to say that my son is so awful and terrible and horrible to have as a son that, I regret it or anything. That's not what I mean. I just mean for my son's sake and how hard it is for him dealing with this. Would I have wanted that for him had I known it was a thing? That being said, it's 50-50 chance, right? And then there's the youngest who has my depression and I'm like, yeah. I don't know which I think is worse. I mean, my son who's on the spectrum, he does get down and he hides it well. But he almost seems to be doing better than the son who's got depression. And I don't know why that is. I don't know the sort of specifics. I think it's because Aspies are just so good at masking and people with depression are probably bad at it. I don't know. Maybe Aspies are better at being lonely than people with depression. I don't know. If you've got any theories, drop a comment below. And so yeah, we sort of have these situations like I'll be listening to music and there'll be a song and it'll say, let's say Craig David, for example. There's a song where he says, I'm just sitting here thinking about you and all the things you do, and I will instantly have this kind of down thing wash over me because I don't have a partner who does that. I'm never going to have a partner who does that. I had before partners who did that, and so I know what it's like to have it, and now I don't have it. And if I stay with my husband, which I most likely will, I'm not going to have it for the rest of my life. And so I'll listen to songs and they just kind of remind me of all the things that are missing. So I don't like listening to music as much anymore, which is a bummer because I'd always really loved it. For me, all of the lyrics and all of the songs and that all were full of possibility of what my life could be. And yeah. And so recently hubby and I were talking about that and other things. And he was saying that he's better now, like he's not angry as much anymore, and he's critiquing less, and he's been good, and surely that just makes everything better. And I like the concept, and I'm really thankful that he's better. He's sort of more nicer these days, and that definitely helps, without a doubt. But I said to him, it's kind of like if you have a really bad childhood, your parents are like mega abusive, alcoholics, druggos, all of the awful things that parents can be. You don't suddenly get to age 25 and look back on your history and go, oh yeah, now that I'm out of it, it was great. And so I said to him, that's kind of like him and I. So as much as he's no longer critiquey, heavily critiquey, just mildly critiquey now, it doesn't change the past and the thoughts about it. What I normally do with the past when I get a thought is kind of be like, oh, thank you, thought, appreciate that, don't come again, and just try to wash it out of my mind and not think about it. Because there's nothing can be done about it, it is what it is, and there's no point lingering on the past, that's just kind of futile. So I'll have a thought now and again and then, send it on its merry way. But at the same time, there's this accumulative effect where my history with him has been fraught with all manner of terror and danger and whatnot, and hardships, and even if I don't think about the past, that's already written in my history. So for me, even if I don't actually think about the past, it's kind of already written on the slate of my mental well-being, is what I'm trying to say. And so even if hubby was to try and improve and do things, it won't necessarily make a difference. And in saying that, his behaviour isn't the cause of my depression, but it has certainly exacerbated my depression. Because when you already have depression and then you're with somebody who critiques and fault finds, and it's like the exact opposite of what you need. You need somebody comforting and loving. And he does kind of try to be, he'll give me a hug and stuff and, try to be soft place for me to lean on. But yeah, I think in all honesty for him, it's very hard for him to understand depression. And that's what I'm trying to get at here is the nuances and the history and genetics and blah, 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 how it all plays a part. And he doesn't fully understand much of that. I don't think he understands what it's like to be down, even though he had depression recently after COVID when he was seeing the counsellor. He was talking to her about depression that he had and wanting to quit work and things. So he did have a moment. And that was when our son was really down, and I think that was really hard for him. He seems to be better now. But even in saying that, maybe him having it has helped him understand me a little bit more now, because I think he's dealing with it better now than he had in the past. But I'm not sure. I don't think anybody who's on the spectrum would really know how to help people with depression. That being said, I have numerous acquaintances and friends and family and such, and nobody's really able to help. There is just so little that somebody can do to change your mental makeup. I think probably one of the best things my friends could have ever done was take me out dancing so that I could listen to the doof-doof music and drown out my thoughts. But sadly, I didn't have friends who liked to go clubbing. And that's the other reason why music has been so integral for me, and why I have really died being in a relationship where I haven't been able to listen to it as much as I want. And here's something I will say about that. Fully understanding the side of my partner in this one, when I listen to music, I don't want to just listen to music. I want to have it so loud that the bass is reverberating in my brain, because that helps me not think. It helps me kind of cope with the depression. And I'm not sitting right next to the speakers making myself deaf. I'm away from the speakers listening to them loud, but obviously everyone in the house and the neighbourhood is thinking, please stop playing that music. So I can understand why it would drive my husband nuts if and when I listen to music. But that's why I was always really craving my own personal space away from him and away from everybody, where I could have that music. And mostly it was in my car. I would go for a drive in my car and put my music on nice and loud. And also driving helps. I love driving, so listening to music and driving was helping. So yeah, that's also been another struggle, in that I haven't been able to listen to music at any kind of significant volume because he's watching TV. So you can't have music loud when he's watching TV because he's trying to listen to his TV. And even if he wasn't listening to his TV, if I had my music loud, what can he do? It's just so loud that he wouldn't even be able to think or function. He'd have to leave or something, because it would just be so hard for him to sort of be around. Which is why where we are now, we have this setup where I can be in this room here and he's at the other end of the house watching TV, and we finally have a space where I can listen to my music. But I have now reached a point where listening to music now makes me feel glum, because all the songs are singing about things that were possibilities that aren't possibilities anymore. So it's this big old circle roundabout effect. So yeah, that's me and my depression and how it affects husband, the family, the children. There have been times where I'm kind of like, dinner's baked beans on toast because I don't want to get out of bed. I tend not to let it show a great deal, although I'm pretty sure that anybody who knows me well will have noticed Mum's lost her smile. But for the most part, I just kind of plod along and pretend and try to figure out all the multitude of ways that I can try to fight it or work through it. Sometimes I'll just go with the flow and know that it's going to end eventually, but mostly I would try to do all manner of things to cope. But I'm sure from my husband's perspective, being on the spectrum and being with somebody with depression, I imagine would be really, really difficult. I think there's worse things that I could have. I could have narcissism or, what's that other one? Borderline personality, or I don't know, major insecurities where I'm jealous and aggro all the time. I mean, there's definitely worse things for him to deal with. But yeah, I'm not, Miss Perfect, making his life all rainbows and sunshine myself. I do bring my own set of difficulties to the relationship. Anyway, that's enough for me. Hopefully this video makes sense, because I feel like it went around and around 50 different ways and I kind of missed all the points. But anyway, over to you. Comment below. Can you relate? And thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Really do appreciate it.